Oh, hey!
Hey.
High five.
Boom,
High
boom, boom.
five. Hey, hey. Okay, we're so we're gonna do it now.
Yeah, we're
All right.
recording.
All right. So, Pitmaster here, and I'm here with the Doc,
Good to see you, John.
and we have a special guest who I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest right now. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not.
He ran away. He's already gone.
I'm not
Closing my dog
I'm
out
not
of the
proud of this, but I'm going to admit it. I was not, like, I didn't know what pygmies were per se. I kind of thought they were like leprechauns or Menahunis. And then if somebody said they were being extinct, to be honest, I'd be like, okay, how's that affect me? I don't really care. I don't even know what a pygmy is. Okay, then I met this guy, Justin Wren, 2 weeks or last week at the Super Show in Vegas, and we started talking, and he had a booth at the Super Show, and it was fighting for the forgotten. And I was like, okay, so we start talking, and all of a sudden, because of his passion, seriously, all of a sudden I became like a fucking pygmy guy. Like, I love pygmies now, and I really care about that whole thing. And I'm not like that usually. It's like, hey, I got enough to worry about here. Let the guys over there feed themselves, and these guys feed themselves. But when you talk to this guy, Justin, who you guys are going to talk to in a sec, well, we're going to talk to him, but you're going to watch. The passion that comes out of him. I was like at a party after, and I was talking to him about these pygmies, and I'm so interested in the pygmies. My wife's like, "Can we go over there now?" I was like, hold on, we're talking about these pygmies, and he loves these pygmies. He's given his life for these pygmies. I mean, the love and passion that Justin has for these pygmies, and you're gonna find out about it right now, it's awe-inspiring to me. Awe-inspiring. It's awe-inspiring, and I have nothing but respect for this guy. This guy, he's a fighter, and martial artists are my favorite type of people because of their heart. Now this guy has that heart for fighting. It's like huge, but now he has it for these pygmies. They're little people in Africa, but he has given his love and his passion to these people, and it's his mission in life to save them and give them water. So we're gonna talk to him right now. He's here. His nickname is the Big Pygmy, and his name is Justin Wren. Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You are.
So, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Growing up, I actually got pretty heavily bullied, and it wasn't until I found the UFC, mixed martial arts, that it gave me an outlet and kind of a purpose to focus on for the next 10 years until I found the pygmies and their plight. But it's pretty surreal to be here, sitting here talking to you, the Pitmaster, John Hackelman. I was a huge fan of Chuck and you and everything that the Pit was. I had a shirt from the Pit that I was wearing at, I think, 15, 16 years old. Yeah, there you go, Doc. So this is just really, really cool for me. It's kind of a neat little milestone to be like, wow, I'm here talking with you guys, with your fan base. It's an honor, and thank you so much for that introduction. For me, if there was two things I could do with my life, it would be live to love and fight for people. And so for you to kind of capture that in the intro was humbling. So thank you.
It's so obvious because I'm a conservative, and I'm usually not like to be honest, like if you were talking to me most of the time, if you were like someone else, and I was like, okay, they're pygmies, all right, whatever, and I'll talk to you later. But you have such a passion. I was telling everybody there at the Super Show, like, I was talking to Laborio and I was talking to Mike Metzger and all the guys. Like, do you know this guy? I mean, he is like, it comes out of you. Like, it's unbelievable, bro. It's like I said, it really impressed the shit. You've heard me talk about him. He's my BFF. This is James, and he's one of my students. He likes to be called Jim, but I don't like Jim, so I call him James.
Him and my mom, that's it. Call me James.
So he's one of my students. His daughter was dating my stepson for a while, and that's how we met. He's a local orthopedic surgeon, so in case my shoulders go out or anything like that, he's going to fix it. But until then, we just work out almost every day. We do a podcast. We go hiking on the weekend. But you've heard me talk about this guy already since I've been back.
Yeah, when John came back, I asked him about the Super Show, and I think he pretty much just talked about you. I know he did a lot while he was there, but
you're an impressive guy, bro.
You had a big impact on John.
Yeah.
So thanks for good to meet you, and thanks for coming on our show. It's awesome of you.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we're gonna ask you. And my wife is tired of you by now. I'm telling you. She's like, fuck, would you stop talking about the Pygmy guy? Jesus Christ. I was like, no, you don't understand. The water. But anyway.
Well, I want to hear. Why don't you tell us I didn't get to hear it all. You got to talk to John.
It's a story.
Tell us and the people listening, like, how you found your way from the U.S. over, to Africa.
And there's a picture of you over there, and then we got a picture of you guys over here with some other guy.
Hey,
Pygmy is tell us what a pygmy is. Pygmy is first, and for you guys out there, it's Pygmy. That's how you spell it. I messed that up. I spelled pig me, and then I put gay. Why did I put gay? Because my voice recognition. Or only when I talk to you, gay stuff comes out. My wife does not like that. Anyway, go on.
Siri's pretty smart.
No, that's awesome. Well, I mean, to address it first, John, I was one of those guys, without a shadow of a doubt, where I was like, hey, if we're going to do anything to help anyone, why wouldn't we help people first in our backyard? And why would I ever go over there? Why would I go to Africa? Why would I, they can help themselves. They've had plenty of time to do it, and it's just a big money hole. Why would we go over there and help? And so for me, that's kind of where I started one, I was a depressed, drunk drug addict for about four years heavily, but 6 years total. And depression was like a 10-year battle. I was clinically diagnosed with depression at 13 years old. And that started because I sat at the lunch table by myself, got pelted in the back of the head with chocolate milk spit wads or food or fist. I had a speech problem. I had a speech therapist. I had a stutter. And then I couldn't pronounce certain words. So from kindergarten to 6th grade, had a speech therapist, but words like fish would be hard for me. I would say fush instead. No matter how hard I would try, it would come out fush, and it'd be frustrating. So I think I was just an easy target. I think I was the last kid in the U.S. That had a chili bowl haircut. So my parents just put the bowl on the head and cut right around it. And I was a chubby kid. So
we call that rice bowl in Hawaii. Rice bowl haircut.
What's that?
In Hawaii, we call that a rice bowl haircut.
Rice bowl, rice bowl, chili bowl.
Same thing.
With Texas, right? Texas. So chili bowl, but rice bowl, and man. So that accompanied with me being a chubby kid. Kids would pull up my shirt, grab my fat, twist my nipples. I still have this habit. It doesn't even matter. I even caught myself. It's hard for me to watch a TED Talk that I did. I was invited to do one of those, and I actually had malaria, my third bout with malaria during the talk. I found out after the talk. I said I had the flu or something, but really it was malaria. But I'll pull on my shirt. And it's because, growing up, I had this habit of not wanting to show off my man boobs or my belly. And so I still have that habit today that I can't really get rid of. I don't think I've ever said that on a podcast, but I think I was more thinking a conversation between you and me. But no, so I had that, found MMA, and that just gave me a lot of hope. But it didn't last. I would say that I started fighting, got on the Ultimate Fighter TV show, was there. That was great. That was my childhood dream. It became a reality. But then whenever drugs got involved, and fighting wasn't everything that I had hoped it to be, I went through another relapse with depression, tons and tons of drugs, to where my best friend, after like an 8-week long binge, and I would go off on these crazy long binges, but I was like basically a missing person. My family broke into my house, couldn't find me. There was Coke and pill bottles. I got hooked on Oxy bad when I had a surgery, and Oxy overtook my life, to where I was taking hundreds a month, being prescribed hundreds because I went to 3 different doctors. This was before they were communicating across state lines. So I would go visit my family in DFW. I was living in Colorado. I'd go wrestle in Iowa, and I would do this little loop every month, saying it was for training, but really it was to fulfill or fill my addiction. So I got a voicemail from my best friend, and it was an 8-week bender, and it said, "I can't believe you missed my wedding. I can't believe my best man didn't show up." And so I was just far, far gone. Had this kind of radical moment of intervention with some close friends and family. And then after that, I just realized, hey, I've got to use this one life I get to live for something greater than myself. I'm a fighter. You, John, have come across so many fighters. We all have. To be a fighter, I think you have to have a fighter's heart, and there's a depth to that that wasn't being filled just through fighting. So for me, it transitioned to fighting for people. And if I could do that, and I started in my backyard, started at a children's hospital, became a volunteer there, had to go through night classes to become an official volunteer at the Denver Children's Hospital, and then from there, drug rehab facilities, at-risk youth, inner city youth. I would just start involving myself at the homeless shelter, and I would start doing little by little in my own neighborhood, and I would do that weekly. And then it kind of turned into doing something bigger with another organization nationally, to where they were flying me around the country, sharing my own drug addiction story in prisons. And so I've been in over 100 different prisons, sharing my story from juvenile detention centers to death row. Literally, I've been in Corcoran State in California before, while on the same block as Charles Manson, speaking to some guys that even helped start up the Crips and getting those one-on-one conversations. So anyways, I guess to sum that up, I've never really shared that part, but for me, it's let's make a difference here, there, and everywhere, or anywhere.
Did you have a mentor when you first started, like your first experience volunteering or doing something for other people? Was there someone that kind of led you that way?
Yes and no. I started with kind of local friends at my local church and just kind of started there, and then found a volunteer that was at the Children's Hospital, was very heavily involved. His name was Scott. And Scott just showed me and invited in, at the time it was Grudge Training Center. And, I got to go first to the Children's Hospital and see Scott invited me saying that, that there was this little kid that had watched The Ultimate Fighter, that he was 10 or 11 years old, had gotten in a 4-wheeling accident, and had brain trauma, and that his whole family thought it'd be really cool if, or his whole family was there. It had been weeks. He was finally starting to recover, and they thought it would be cool if some MMA fighter could come visit. Well, I was a fighter. I was nicknamed the Viking. He liked Vikings at that time, and so they invited me out. And I went there, and I would say that changed my life, but it wasn't a positive experience the first time I went. It was actually, for me, negative. I left crying because I went in there, visited this little kid named Bryce Castle, and when I saw him, it was brutal. He could only basically moan in agony, in pain. And to be honest, I thought I was going to go there and meet this little guy that was a fan, and he was oblivious to me even being there. It was a 10 to 11, maybe 9 to 11 years old, I forget his exact age. And I almost felt like they brought me there in false pretenses that I would see this kid that was a big fan. And then I got brought there to see this almost not brain dead, but a kid that could only feel pain and not even make eye contact with anybody. And so I left there frustrated and even kind of mad at the guy, Scott. I go, why'd you even bring me here, man? Like that was brutal. Like, that kid doesn't even know I'm there. Like, his family did. I took a picture with the kid, but he's not even going to remember me being there. And I remember him telling me almost like suck it up, like what you did for that family. Even if it's just moral support for the mom, the dad that are watching their kid, that literally I guess it flipped and his head landed kind of in between a tree and the four-wheeler, kind of crunched on him. And they're like, and I was like tearing up, and I remember Scott saying, hey, if you got to cry, cry, bro. But what you did for his family, his little brother, his older brother, you come in there signing a picture, them putting it on the wall, like if you got to cry, cry. But the smile you put on that kid's face is worth it. And that wasn't even the kid, Bryce, it was his brother. So that's kind of where it all began, where I left with like almost these like angry tears in my eyes. But then I realized, it's a really cool story. Now I've been to Bryce's school. I've shared my story even about how I talked to him. He competes in local jiu-jitsu tournaments now. So when I left there, the doctor said, whenever we came out of the room, he'll probably never walk again. He'll be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And to see him make the progress he has, and the sport of jiu-jitsu, the sport of martial arts, he's competed at Nagas and I think IBJJF tournaments. I believe he is a sophomore in high school now. And to see the kind of recovery that he's made and how he has his wits about him, how he's an honor student. I mean, it's pretty cool to see that kind of transformation. And so from there, starting small and just doing what I could, I had someone tell me one time, man, because I told him I stepped away from the sport of fighting. I thought that at least for a year, I needed to sacrifice fighting. That was my only way of pay, of job. That's the only thing I knew how to do. I started fighting professionally at 19 years old. So I never really had a real job besides that. And a guy said, hey, man, just have your head on a swivel and what you're passionate about. One day you'll be able to put, have a house or put a food on the table. I haven't bought a house yet, but I've been able to provide by making a difference and by fighting. Fighting's been my main way of pay. And he's like, look, why don't you just try to do what you love, and then you'll never have to work a day in your life, kind of thing. And John, I think you've been able to kind of do that. A lot of times it is work, without a doubt. But you get to make a difference in people's lives. It's not work, right?
No.
You're making an impact.
I wake up, I swear to God, this is true. You could ask my wife, poor thing. I wake up every day. I tell her at least once a day, I can't believe I'm living this life.
I love it.
I honestly can't. I can't. When I walked into my first gym at 10 years old thinking, I'm tired of getting bullied. I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii, and didn't want to get bullied. And I hooked up in the toughest martial arts gym probably in the world, definitely in Hawaii, and came up with the toughest guy in and out of prison. And I never would have thought my life would be like this, but I never work another day. This is what I'm doing. I'm working right now, doing a podcast with my best friend and me. We're doing a podcast, and I'm working right now in my gym. This is my gym. So yeah. You're right. And well, let me ask you this on a side note. Yeah. Have you ever met Court McGee?
I haven't, but we've messaged each other words of encouragement quite a bit because his story is so inspiring to me.
Because he's one of my guys, and he comes out here all the time, and I was his coach on Ultimate Fighter that season. He won. You guys would be like Tony fucking Robbins if you guys got together on a speaking circuit. You guys would kill it. You guys need to get together. You guys have so much. You guys would have so much together. Like, you guys are so similar. You met Court. He's like, and he has a beard, But you guys are so similar, it'd be crazy. And his passion for people is like yours, and he loves. We're in Vegas. He's signing an autograph after a fight. He talks to every single person for like 20 minutes. He has their autograph and phone number when he's done. He loves everyone. You guys, I have to make the connection. You have his contact.
Hey, please.
Yeah, you guys. But anyway, so after the fighting, we haven't gotten the Pygmies yet. You're not.
Oh yeah.
Because you guys, people might not know. You got like a 13-2 record in MMA. You have a complete winning record, and you fought in the UFC and Bellator. So you're not like a Tachi Palace fighter. You're a big league fighter, and your record's 13-2. That's pretty damn impressive.
Hey, well, thank you so much. And I think I need to update Sherdog or whatever, because it's technically 15-2, which doesn't matter. But
it doesn't matter.
It does
small
really
details.
Matter. No, it's small details. But I appreciate it. And I took 5 years off from the sport because I was just like, you know what? If fighting is great, but I feel called with my life to fight for people and fight for the Pygmies and fight for the forgotten. The name came from them. When I got there, and this guy was telling me about the extreme stuff that they were going through at that time, and even currently, there was people groups and tribes and especially rebel groups that believed if they could hunt, kill, cook, and eat the Mabuti Pygmies, that they would get supernatural powers where bullets would fly right through them, and they would be invincible in war. These rebel groups would be. I just couldn't believe it, and got there, met the chief. I mean, I was crying the first time I met him because of their stories, their plight, and the chief told me, everyone else calls us the forest people. There's even a book out by, I believe, Colin Turnbull, one of the most prestigious anthropologists ever. He lived with them as well, and his book's called The Forest People from the 60s or 70s. It's a great book, but he said everyone else calls us the forest people, but we call ourselves the forgotten. And one of the reasons was later I'd find out a story. One of the most evil stories I've ever heard was this man watched his nephew. Actually, he's not in that picture behind you, but he's from the same village, Bahaha village. And he said, everyone else calls it, so he said, I watched my nephew's wife, so his niece-in-law, get kicked to her knees, and she had a machine gun put to her head, a machete put to her throat, and she was literally force-fed pieces of her own husband. So this man's nephew, he had to watch be cooked over a fire, and his nephew's wife was force-fed pieces of her own husband. So without a doubt, the most evil thing I could have ever heard of. And then I found out that anywhere from 400 to 600,000 Mabuti Pygmies were enslaved in the Congo. And then I found out that from going to Rwanda, that was kind of the safest route into Goma, which is a town of 1 million people that have been overtaken numerous times by rebel groups there. Rebel groups can take over a town that's protected by the military and police officers. These rebel groups that came from Rwanda, they were Hutu and Tutsi tribes, the genocide. They were on opposite sides then. They still kind of are on opposite sides, but then there's been rebel groups that have been disbanded and come back together that are made up literally of the Hutu and Tutsi tribes, where they work hand in hand together in Congo. So, and there's been over 6 million people that have died of this conflict. So it's kind of, a lot of people in Africa call it the silent Holocaust, because their numbers are literally rivaling the number of Jews, of life lost of the Jewish people in the Holocaust. So that's their terminology, not mine. I know that can offend some people even comparing it, but it still is a horrific war that's taking place right now. And so in Rwanda, the Pygmies, there were 100,000 or more in Rwanda, which is a really small country. If you look it up on a map of Africa, you can barely see Rwanda because it's so small. And then even the size of Africa isn't even true on maps. You'll have to if there's listeners here and they're on their smartphone or have a computer in front of them, they really should Google images and do the real size of Africa. Even if you guys can do that sometime, you'll blow your mind that you can fit the entire U.S., you can fit all of India, you can fit all of China, and you can fit all of Europe, like Spain and France and Italy. You can fit all of those countries plus Japan all in the continent of Africa. And so it doesn't look as big as it is in most real maps. So Rwanda is actually a tiny country inside of Africa. But the Pygmy people group there were targeted whenever the Hutu and Tutsi were, where both sides hated the Pygmies so much and believed in this witchcraft and that you get supernatural powers, that they took the Pygmy people group down to just a few hundred. And so after being over 100,000 in Rwanda, now there's only a few hundred left. And so, yeah, their people group is almost extinct in Rwanda. That's the Batwa. And in the Congo, the Pygmy people group there are named the Mabuti and the Efe Pygmies. And so the Pygmies are kind of the stature size of them and how they're identified. And then they also call themselves a tribe name of Mabuti or Batwa or Efe. And so that's why my name is Mabuti Mangbo, which there just means the big pygmy. So that's what they call me.
What? Wow. What? Okay, so like in Hawaii, they have like, and they're not really, they're Manahunis, and they're mystical. So there's no real Manahunis. Like there's no real leprechauns. But there is a real pygmy. What is a real pygmy? Because is it like a midget, a dwarf? Is it politically incorrect to say either one of those two things? Do they have, what is a pygmy, and how do they evolve into being pygmyism or whatever they?
Yeah, you'll get mixed reviews if you look it up online. If pygmies are a derogatory term or not. But there, when you ask the Mabuti Pygmies, and I've lived in 12 different villages of Pygmies and asked this question every time, and I've met thousands of Mabuti Pygmies, they're proud of the name. Originally, it comes from, it's their people group. They're like, why would we not want to be called Pygmies? It's who we are, and we're proud of it. And so they're originally, the Belgians who speak French, gave them the name Pygmy because it meant standing between wrist and elbow height. So it means smaller people group, but they are proportional in size, so not like dwarfism or anything like that. So they stand regular height. If you ask anthropologists and scientists, they would say it's been because, and there was some new article that just came out showing the distinct size difference in even a Western country whenever nutrition first came, and how height was increased whenever better and better nutrition and farming practices came to their country. So with the Pygmies, though, they go through malnutrition quite a bit. They also live in the rainforest. And in the rainforest, in the canopy, only about 2% of the actual sunlight comes through the canopy to the rainforest floor in most places. Some pygmies live in a place where there's a clearing, some don't, but they don't have as much vitamin D as we do. They don't have as much nutrition. They're hunter-gatherers, so they live on a lot less of a calorie intake than we do. And it's just not a very diverse diet. And so that are some theories. I don't know. And others say through evolution, needing to be smaller, more nimble or mobile and agile through the forest on their hunts to stay more quiet, to not be stepping on the leaves and stirring up a lot of commotion. So those are some theories of why they're smaller, and I seem to think that could be some of the valid.
Do they ever crossbreed, and if they do, which is the what do you call the gen?
Dominant?
The dominant gene. So if they breed, will they get bigger in the middle, or does theirs dominate?
Yeah. So I know some children that sadly were born through, I would say, rape of the slave masters that owned the mother, or said they owned her. And they will be kind of like halfway in between. So the average height for the average man, average male in Congo for the Mbuti Pygmies is only 4'7". Their neighboring tribes, depending on what it is, which tribe. And so tribes there, I mean, they can marry among different tribes, except normally the Pygmies. If I've met one man that married a Mbuti Pygmy woman, and he was outcast from his family because of it, and had to go live among the Pygmies, which to them looks like he's now chosen the life of living like an animal. So the belief is that it depends on where you are. Some think they're half man, half animal. And I would say to that, people ask a lot of times, how in the world in 2018, does a tribe believe, another tribe is half man, half animal? How can they not see that they're truly human? And I point them to a story of a man named Otabinga. And Otabinga was a Mbuti Pygmy that we brought to the U.S. Explorers brought back from 1902 to 1906. They actually brought him from a village that we actually work in, at least a region we actually work in. And they brought him back from there. They bought him for different stories or different things. But one story says that they brought him for a half spool of brass wire. Another says they bought him for 2 bags of salt. And another says that they slaughtered his family and just took him. But they put him in the St. Louis World Fair from 1902 to 1904. And then after that was kind of his kind of travel around kind of started to diminish. They brought him to the Bronx Zoo, and they were literally breaking records of over 40,000 people a day coming and seeing the pygmy in the monkey house. So they literally put him in the house with the monkeys and fed him bananas from 1904 to 1906 until he escaped, grabbed a gun from a security guard, and killed himself. Yeah, we did it 100 years ago, and I would say that through education, there's brilliant people, absolutely brilliant people. The Pygmies can survive in the forest in ways that I could never do, and they're super smart, the way that they live off the land. But educational-wise, they're behind the times, electronic-wise, and a lot of other things. And going through there, whenever you see twig and leaf huts or mud houses with thatch roofing, you think, oh, wow, this is kind of like almost 100 years ago. So no running water. They might have a radio, they might have a flashlight, but no electricity in the home or anything like that. So yeah, I'm kind of rambling there, but giving you some of the history, giving you some of the context where they're seen as a big difference between them. But there's over 200 tribes in Congo, and there's over 200 spoken languages in Congo. So to villainize one tribe, I never really say a tribe by name of their oppressors, because it depends on what region you're in. But normally it's from either they're hunter-gatherers, and normally it's the people that are farmers or raising livestock or doing both that are the people group that oppress them.
So how old are you? You're 30.
Just 31.
So can you tell us about your first trip there? I'm curious, growing up here, tell us about that first time you went over there. What was that like, and was it what you expected?
Yeah, so it wasn't anything that I expected. I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that where we were originally flying into had been taken over by the rebels, and we were going to have to find a small kind of prop pilot plane or to come pick us up in Uganda, and then to drop us off in Congo. We were having to circle the runway because people were still cutting the grass, and they were doing that with machetes. And it was a whole village clearing the runway because they didn't know the last time It was years and years ago that a other airplane had landed there. We land, we get out, we have some translators that pick us up and take us deep into the rainforest. We have to hike in. And whenever we got there, I just remember it being so surreal. There was people that literally, some of them had been paid in clothing, and others they were just wearing leaves as their clothes. They had never seen people with white skin before, so they literally were running and hiding. They had heard of people, but they had never seen us, and we just kind of show up unannounced. And they ran and hid behind trees. I mean, you could kind of imagine I'm this Viking-looking dude or vanilla gorilla type-looking guy there walking through the rainforest. And so some people were excited at our visit, and some people were scared and hid behind trees.
But this was a visit where you just basically showed up. It wasn't. There's nothing arranged. You just said, "We're going to this spot on the map and get to meet the people there."
We kind of called it a scouting trip where we wanted to see if there was even a way. The problems were way too big and we were way too small. So, is there even a way to make a difference? Or if we spend our whole life trying to make a difference, the visual I got was, is it going to be like trying to empty the ocean with an eyedropper? Every time we pull out a drop and try to help, is it just going to fill right back up? And so I didn't know the answer to that question. I left there feeling defeated, and really getting to the second trip might show where the passion came from, because I went one time, left, and felt like, oh my gosh, there's nothing we can do. And then there was just a second trip and it was kind of the same reason I went the first time was, am I always going to wonder, what if I would have gone? What if I would have tried? What if I would have given it a chance? What could have happened? And not trying to pat myself on the back, but trying to say like, hey, my life actually mattered. I actually made a difference some way, somehow for someone. And even if it was just one person, what is that worth it? And for them, what they go through on a daily basis is so much different. And it was without a doubt culture shock and heartbreaking and gut wrenching. And so the second trip I went, I met a little boy named Andy Bo. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you, John, when we met, but Andy Bo was 1.5 years old. And it was 3 days before I left. And I was cupping the back of his head, kind of cradling it with my palm. I was holding his little hand. His mom was across from us, and his father and his brother had already passed away because of the water crisis. And then I watched Andy Bo as he took his last breath, and blood came out of his ears. And that was the first time in my life, and I had seen a dead body or two or a few, but it was always in the instance. And you're a doctor, James or Jim, and for me, I had never felt the life leave a body, and so that was something that, and in such a way that for me was injustice. Like, man, I was born with clean water. I could technically live on the water in my dog's bowl. These women are going on 3.5 mile round trip walks. Most of them are spending up to 6 hours a day collecting dirty water for their family. They're having to select children that can't go to school because they have to go on these water walks that when the jerry can's full, a 5-gallon jerry can, 20 liters is 44 pounds. And these little women and children are the ones that have to go collect it because these 4'7" men are having to go hunt and gather. So to see his life robbed or cut short, it wrecked me. To hear the sounds of the village and to dig the grave with my translators and a buddy of mine, to have blisters on our hands digging the grave. I just remembered, like, we should be digging a well instead of a grave. And thinking like, okay, I've already taken a year off from fighting because I didn't want to go back in that world where my drug addiction was so bad, to where for me, I had a reason to party if I won, and I had a reason to numb myself if I lost. This is a worthy fight and a worthy cause, and it's fighting for something much greater than myself. So I'll take off another year. And so the 1 year turned into 2 years. And then that third year, I went and lived in the Congo for a full year. While I was there, our goal was it was kind of four things. Well, four and then three. The first four was I'm just going to go live with them, listen to them, learn from them, and then they're going to tell me the best way to love them. But if I don't take the time to live with them, and I won't really experience it. And John, you know from being a martial arts instructor, you can tell someone something, and it can go in 1 year out the other. You can show them something, and they might forget about it. But if you do all three, if you teach them and they're able to get it between their ears, if they're able to see it with their eyes, and then they're able to experience it, get their hands on it, and actually do it, you retain it so much more. So I wanted to live with them, listen to them, learn from them, and then that way we could come up with a way together to love them the most. And they taught me this Swahili proverb while I was there, and it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so that inspired me with the three things of like, okay, we're gonna equip them with the tools to drill the wells for themselves. We're going to educate them with the knowledge so that they know how to do it. That whole give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach him how to fish, feed him for a lifetime. So equip them with the tools, educate them with the knowledge, and then empower them to do it for themselves. Empower them to be the change they want to see in the world, their country, their community, their village, their tribe. And every man and woman don't want their kids to be drinking dirty water that literally kills them. And the statistic is, and once I couldn't escape it, once I came back and was just, I remember coming back from Andy Bo's funeral and having blisters on my hands that literally hurt anytime I put my hands in my pocket or I unzipped my bags. And I got to Popeye's Chicken at Atlanta Airport. And I was there, and there was this mother-daughter crew that had this shirt, and it was kind of right after the Haiti earthquake, or it was maybe a year or two, and there was still a lot of aid going there, which a lot of people don't know, but Tent City has grown and doubled and tripled in size because of humanitarian aid. Actually fuels, if it's not empowering, if it's disempowering, you actually cripple the community. And I can go into that more, but I had been there and I had seen Tent City, and I had seen people that had jobs and who were just living in Tent City because you get free food, you get clean water, and you get free rent. And so it's a disempowering model where it's like, okay, there's got to be an escape plan. The locals have to be empowered. Charity isn't the answer to poverty. Like what we say at Fight for the Forgotten is opportunity is greater than charity. Charity can be great, but opportunity is always better. So how do we truly open an opportunity for people to grab hold of, and instead of giving them a hand out, you're reaching down and you're giving them a hand up and helping them on their own 2 feet, dusting them off, and then them saying, okay, I got it from here. So that was kind of the model we wanted to approach.
So did you see problem number one, though? It sounds like they had a lot of problems, but was it the water first?
Yes. So actually it was land first. So what Fight for the Forgotten has done, with also some other partners as well, a university that's there, a nonprofit here stateside called Water 4. They're the ones that taught me how to drill wells. But it first started with land, water, and food initiatives. So the land had to come first. So we started off first with like 30 acres. Then after that, we got like 247 acres. And now we've helped them get back 3,000 acres of land. And we did that through the local, state, and national level. Now we even have the state governor of the biggest state or biggest province in Congo sponsoring this, which has been really great because until we were able to come there and kind of petition and lobby on their behalf, what they said was, hey, the first promise I made wasn't land or water or food, to Chief Jalua, who said, we don't have a voice. Can you help us have one? I knew that through fighting and through some sort of social media reach, or not even social media, but just being an American, we have free speech and people might listen to us, and we have our friends and our family. That was my first promise, because I said, I can't promise you something I can't back up. I can't promise you you're going to get land or water or food, but I promise you I'll tell your story. And from telling their story, we were able to raise funds. And from those funds that were raised, we were able to go there and buy land on their behalf. And after buying land, we bought land back from their oppressors. Actually, even some we bought from the local government, but the majority of it we bought from their slave masters. The reason was we came in the community, we casted a vision and said, hey, we want to help both sides. I didn't just attend Andy Bo's funeral. I've attended 6 or 7 funerals of kids under the age of 5 years old. And a lot of those people have, or not a lot, but 2 of those have been from the slave masters tribe. So it's not, so 3.4 million people die because of the water crisis each and every year. 2 million of them are under the age of 5 years old. So it preys mostly on the small and the weak. Half the hospital beds, you're a doctor, but I've talked to a few doctors, and a lot but a few have been like, really, like half the hospital beds in the world are because of the water crisis. It's the number 1 cause of death in the developing world. And so it even has effects on malnutrition and hunger, because whenever you're eating your food, if it's dirty water and you have dysentery, you have diarrhea, you have all this stuff, you're not absorbing the nutrients from your food. It's going right in and right out.
You're getting dehydrated. Yeah.
You're getting dehydrated like crazy. And so, I mean, I think there's 850 kiddos a day that are dying because of diarrhea and stuff. It's just, it's pretty mind-blowing where the effects of diarrhea, the dehydration, the malnutrition, the sickness that comes from it. And so, man, it was something that was like, wow, like we've got to start somewhere, but we can't drill wells first and then them not have ownership of the land. And these are the first people group of Congo. They're the first citizens. That's what we've started to use that terminology, and it started to kind of stick in the communities we've gone in, where it's like, these are the first citizens. These are the first people of Congo. Why are they the only ones that don't have land? There's over 200 tribes. Everyone's got land ownership except them. So it's been cool to see the reception of the local government saying, yeah, you're right. And even the locals' population saying, yeah, you're right. And so buying the land back from one side, it benefited them financially, and then it benefited the Pygmies for the first time having land. Then from there, both sides were getting clean water. Because if you come in and you try to love one side and you kind of hate the other, or you neglect or reject the other, it's going to only hurt the people you're originally trying to help and intend to work with. So it's been this huge undertaking of like a community development project. It's got to be both sides win, and win big in a way of like where they're excited for us to come in there and partner with them and work with them, because they're not the slave masters that are sitting back drinking sweet tea and have like 100 slaves underneath one family. Normally, there are villages we worked in where it's kind of one family owns the majority of the people, or owned them, or called them their property. But normally we work with the villages that it's one family kind of owns another family. And it's different than indentured servitude. It really is slavery, where people will tie them up to a tree or tie them up and beat them, and a lot of craziness. But it's cool to see the peace come in whenever you can help with both the land, the water, and then we start farming initiatives where we help them plant seeds deeper. Whenever it's in the rainforest, I mean, things can be washed away, or you plant the seeds farther apart. Instead of just randomly scattering them, we help them with an agriculturalist that will come in and say, hey, the reason your plants are kind of, or your corn, your maize is choking itself out is because you're not planting your seeds far enough apart. They're too close together. Or the reason they're washing away is because you didn't plant them deep enough. So helping them on that, where they get a higher yield, now they are benefiting financially. The opposite side, or the oppressor side, is benefiting financially. They're getting clean water for the first time, and they're getting higher yields on their food, which means they're able to go sell it at the market better, or they're able to feed their kids better.
How did you get the Pygmies out of being slaves and emancipate them? Do they have to be bought out of slavery?
No. In fact, if you start with that terminology, we kind of don't even we acknowledge it like they are free, they are their own people, this is their own land, but we don't put a price on a human being's head. The reason is because you'll create a market for it. And what we've seen with other organizations and some things they've struggled with, and now it's different there. It's been trafficking, like human trafficking, and there's been times that the Pygmies have struggled with that or been victimized of that, but not normally. And so, for instance, with some anti-trafficking groups, they've found themselves buying someone out of slavery, returning them to the family, and then 6 months later, they go back to the same hostel, or not hostel, but the same brothel, and they find the same girl in the same position. And what they found was they were buying the person out of slavery, taking them back to the family. And what's the problem is the person that owned them previously, or it was the family sometimes that sold them into it because they needed to make some sort of money. So basically, I could go into that for a while, but you don't want to create a market for people, if that makes sense. I can sum it up that way.
There's a lot of shit going on with him. We thought our lives were complicated. When are you going? When's your? What's your? Okay, what are you doing the next year? When are you going back?
Yeah. So I'll go climb Mount Kilimanjaro in February, and I'll do that with Chris Long, who's a buddy of mine. I climbed. Chris Long won the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles this last year. He also won the Super Bowl the year before with the Patriots. And so him and I gathered a crew. Last year it was 5 or 6 NFL veterans, and it was 6 or 7 military veterans. And this next year we're going to try to have 2 to 5 MMA veterans or combat sports. Maybe
Chuck would love it.
Chuck would love it.
I think so.
Well,
he
Chuck,
just did
Chuck
that.
Or both. Chuck or you or both, maybe.
Yeah.
John hikes our biggest mountain here every week.
Okay. Well, it'll be
a hill. It's a hill.
Is it 19,341 feet?
Yeah.
It may reach 1,000 feet.
Well, we can talk about that sometime too, because we really are looking for some people. The thing that we're trying to do is raise enough to really transform some communities. And so last year our climb was able to there was a 2,000 person school that I have pictures on my phone. I can show you guys later. I can text you, John. And they were having to go collect water literally with makeshift jerry cans that were either paint buckets or they were what you would change your oil with. And they were filling it up from this dirty, disgusting, dark brown creek. And they would have mud in their bucket as they went to school, and they would try to, let it settle and then drink from it. But the water would still be dark brown at top. And so now they have clean water, which is just awesome because water changes everything. And so what we're doing now over the next year is we've actually stepped into something because I want to make a difference here too. So we're doing 2 initiatives. We've expanded from just being the thirsty or the Pygmies to now we have the Pygmies, the thirsty, and the bullied. So we're going to be doing some stateside stuff with Century, which I know your last podcast, I think, or one of the last ones was kind of, you shared a little bit of your amazing time at the Martial Arts Super Show, John, and I just loved it. That was my first experience. And if there's someone listening to this that they own a martial arts academy or they're an instructor, I would say next year go, because I'm already planning on going. It was amazing. It was awesome. So what we hope to do is rally 100 martial arts academies to help us transform 100 communities in the Congo and in Africa, and then 100 communities here. So what we want to do is rally them to do a crowdfunding campaign on our website. And if they're successful at raising $4,200, they'll transform a community with clean water. We'll go drill a well for them, or we'll empower the locals to drill wells for themselves. And then it will equip their own martial arts academy with a Fight for the Forgotten, Century, Maya developed curriculum. And it'll have a 12-week curriculum with mat chat topics It'll have a video series. It'll have a handbook and a handout. We're hoping to do wristbands and T-shirts. But we're excited for that. We want to advance martial arts in the community because of the transformation it had in my life whenever I was 13 years old, suicidal, wanted to kill myself. It was martial arts that gave me hope. So we want to help the Martial Arts Academy school owners advance martial arts in the community. So how we'll do that is give them a 4-step marketing plan. It'll be pretty turnkey. It'll be an online fundraising toolkit. There'll be videos of anti-bullying stories, bullying prevention curriculums. They'll have water crisis stats and videos. They can host a kickathon or a roll-a-thon at their academy. And it'll be an 8-week-long crowdfunding campaign. And so $4,200 or $4,200 sounds like a lot, but I've done it 3 times and each time raised over $50,000. Our Martial Arts Academy did something for the holiday season, and we hosted kind of a holiday Christmas like fundraiser. And the first night we had 80 people from our academy there, and we walked away with we set the goal of 4,200, kind of to do a test run and see how hard this would be. And first night we walked away, and not saying this would be everyone, but we were able to have $14,400. And I think we ended the campaign with over $20,000. And then a little boy named Beckett, my wife and I went, and this is just fun stuff for me. He's 5 years old. He wanted to raise $500 for his 5th birthday, which was on 5/5. And I can't even really have a concept of being 5 years old and saying, I don't want birthday presents this year. I want to give the gift of clean water. But his heart was captured. He watched my story when he was like 3 years old. His family watched me on Facebook, and they saw a video, and they live in a little podunk town in Oklahoma. And I was living in Colorado at the time, and we flew out, and we went and surprised him for his birthday because he had to change his goal 3 different times. He raised over $500, then he raised over $1,500, and then the little guy, a little newspaper covered him. He raised over $5,000 and completely transformed the community for himself. So that whole quote, if you think you're too, well, actually, there's a Swahili proverb I just went into that says, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try to sleep in a closed room with a mosquito. And so that little guy that's 5 years old was able to raise that. We think martial arts communities, when we come together, when we unite and fight, we'll be able to transform 100 communities with clean water, and then they'll be able to change their community or hopefully stand up and speak out against bullying with the online curriculum. So that's kind of the goal for this next year. I want to unite the martial arts academies to stand up, to fight, to knock out the water crisis, and then to knock out bullying in their own community.
So if people listening want to, check you out or look into donating to help your cause with what you're doing, where do they go?
Yeah. So recently we stepped out from underneath our partner Water 4, which is an incredible organization. But to get into the bullying side of things, we switched it up. It's fightfortheforgotten.org. And so we're still going to be funding water wells through Water 4 and through the partnership, the team I founded that I started up in Congo that's now drilled over 77 wells, which is just amazing from me being there for a year and 13. Now they've done 77. So yeah, it's fightfortheforgotten.org or .com. Both of them work, and there's an easy donate button there. And then in a week or two, there'll be a thing called Classy or crowdfunding, where if they wanted to start their own fundraiser, share it on Instagram, Twitter, something like that, they could set a goal of like $4,200, and that would transform a community with clean water.
Wow. Some craziness here. We thought we had a life. We don't even have a life compared to all. So when you went over there with your wife, though, didn't you?
Yeah.
How was that? You don't have any kids.
What was that?
No kids, right?
No kids yet. No kids yet.
How long have you been married?
We've been married for 3.5 years. We've been together for 6.5. And we were engaged at the time that she came over there and visited. She's been to Rwanda twice, Uganda twice, and Congo twice. And in Congo, she spent 3 full months, which is pretty funny. Her dad says that she grew up camping, but I said, Papa Bear, was that at Yogi Bear camp and with a camper? He's like, yeah. I go, well, that's kind of glamping, like glamour camping. So her first real time to ever camp was in the rainforest with the Pygmy, sleeping on the dirt under the twig and leaves, and she had roaches crawl across her neck. And that was her first night out there. She was rained on, all her stuff was wet. So I've definitely got a saint for a wife that in the book. There's a picture.
I'm just trying to imagine our wives with us doing that. Sorry.
Oh, hey, mine too. She grew up in South Lake, Texas, like Dallas, Fort Worth. She's a city girl. And so the quote underneath the picture says, "She must really love me." Because I actually made a big bonehead mistake. I let our driver of our vehicle. Now in Congo, you don't let the sun go down and be on the road. It's kind of becomes a ghost town anywhere you are. It's almost like a wild Western or Western that you'd watch, old Western, where the sun starts to set and everyone starts to board up and clear the streets. It's kind of that way in Congo. Well, it's not kind of, it is that way, where people lock up and they don't come out after dark. And so we got out to a village, and actually a rebel group came through that first night to the village next to us. But we were very fortunate to flee across the river in dark and get to safety. But he had to turn around because he heard some news that these guys were close by. So he had to turn around and leave. Well, he took one bag. My wife had 2 bags that she came with, and he took one of her bags with like her toiletries and her mosquito net. So literally, she was exposed to all the elements for her first month being in the rainforest.
She's still with them. How come our wives, they would leave us? They would not. They would. I know yours would. I know for a fact. I know for a double fact mine would. You met my wife. What?
She almost left me, and then there was this bridge that was in a river, and they had like cut it. The tree fell. They cut the tree. They peeled it apart to where there was like 2 ways to walk across it or use 2 feet on this tree. And so anytime she needed like to shower or something, she would lay on that, not get in the water, and I would like wash her hair and stuff. So she made me make up for it, or maybe not, but I did everything I could to accommodate her while we were there.
Are you gonna fight anymore?
Oh yeah, definitely. I just had a surgery, and that's why my last fight was March of 2017. But I had a surgery. I was trying to get PT. The first time I'm saying it publicly, but it's fine. I had a shoulder surgery. I had a labrum tear, and it didn't go as planned. And then we had to get a new one. But my shoulder's gonna make 100% full recovery. And I'll be fighting again soon. Well, not soon. I'll be fighting after the Kilimanjaro climb. So trying to plan it out to where we're getting the new foundation up and running. I'm doing all my PT literally from 8 to 12 in the morning. I'm with my physical therapist. My surgeon even comes a few days out of the month to watch my progress. And then I'll be climbing Kilimanjaro in February. I'll be going back to Congo then too. Then I plan to fight either April or May 2019. Bellator, I signed a new 5-fight deal with them.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I actually got to sign that at the top of Kilimanjaro. So I put it against the sign, signed it, and what people don't know, I got the picture signing it, but somewhere in Tanzania is a piece of paper with my name, my signature, and my social security number. So it blew off the mountain.
Do you know who you're fighting, or?
No, I don't know who I'm fighting, but I'll go ahead and say that my name was in the hat for the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. I was just dealing with some injuries. Then I was supposed to be the alternate, and then I had this surgery, so I was removed from the tournament. So hopefully when I come back, I'll be fighting some bigger name guys, especially since it helps bring awareness to the cause. That's why I came back. My wife and I have an agreement that she's like, if you're coming back, we've got to have a reason, a purpose, to keep me focused. Keep me away from the life I had lived beforehand. And so now when I fight, the show, and hopefully it's not to like pat myself on the back, but to share, like, I think that athletes, you look at Olympic athletes, I've read some books, and whenever you can raise the bar or raise the necessity of why I'm going to win this fight or why I'm going to win this race, maybe it's an Olympic sprinter and he's running so that he can do it in remembrance of his mother that passed away, or someone here that's doing it for this cause or this purpose or this reason for their wife and their kids. I don't have kiddos yet. I'm sure that would raise the necessity. I'm trying to put food on the table. But for me, I'm trying to drill more wells, trying to get more land, trying to speak out about bullying. And so when I fight and I win, I get to grab the mic, tell people, direct people to how they can get involved, how they can support. But then I get to raise the bar that the show money comes to my wife and I, but the win bonus, we give 100% of that away to the cause, to the foundation. So we're stoked about that. We're stoked about moving forward and being able to truly celebrate the victory and say this was for more than just me. This was for a reason. This is for a purpose. This is for people that really need it. So, man, that's what gets me going. That's what fires me up.
Well, you're very inspiring. I mean, the difference you're making is huge. And so I know for me, there's people in your life, and that's why I asked you that earlier, that seem to make a big difference. And you see when you have your own kids, you wonder who they're going to meet and who's going to be that person that just steers them a different direction. For you changed your whole life and changed your direction. It's inspiring just to get this story out there. I know you have before, but I appreciate you sharing with us because it's an amazing story.
Amazing, yeah. We're big on bullying here. That's what started me. I call it "Don't let anyone take your lunch money," and it's a whole thing that started me in Hawaii. Yeah, we'll collaborate because I'm like this with Century and Maya. So the owner of Century comes out here and trains. It's like yeah. So
Mike's a great guy. Well, if there was ever any way for us to partner in that, talk about the bullying campaign or curriculum coming to you guys. That would be incredible. I know Dave Kovar was talking about helping me with helping develop it, and some other guys and some other Maya people, and Terry was talking about that. And so any of your input would be...
Mine is like kind of, it'd probably be in the middle, but mine is like Kovar. He's a nicer person than I am, a lot nicer. And my bullying doesn't even, I can't even go to the schools like we used to go to the schools, but mine is hit back. So we call it fight back, but you're not, the zero tolerance.
Yeah.
But I say better to be suspended than comatose, right?
Wow.
So it doesn't go, most parents love it, but it doesn't usually fit in the school system. So like something in between mine and Kovar's go together. Mine's a little more like, don't let anyone take your lunch money. And Kovar's is a little, it's a little more politically correct. But mine is like, fuck, I don't want to be politically correct to a fucking piece of shit bully. They're not just poor wayward people. They're bullies. Yeah. And usually bullies in school, they grow up to be bullies too. They're usually the bad, they're mean people. So I have a whole bully. We'll talk about it though. But man, we love having you, man. Like I said, I mean, I'm not like you are, like I'm more like fuck them all. I mean, not like really. I really help a lot of people. I really do. But it's in a different way. I mean, I started training Chuck in my backyard,
That's awesome.
But when I heard you talk, my wife was like, she's never seen me like get that worked up over this whole pygmy thing, and so I think it's fascinating the way you're so passionate about it. It's like I tell everyone I didn't give a shit about pygmies. Now I do. It's like because you bring that on people. So loved having you. I can't wait to see you again. And now we're friends.
Yeah.
I hope you don't hate me.
No, I love you. This is awesome.
And if you ever need anything for your fight or anything, I've done that before too. So love to help you.
Well, one other thing is I did watch your TED Talk, which was really cool. I didn't realize you had malaria while you were doing it, which is nuts. But if anyone wants to check out his TED Talk, it's pretty cool because you had video, pictures, all that stuff. You could see what we're talking about here. You could actually see it. So is that on YouTube? I don't remember where I saw it.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, and I believe it's on our website at fightfortheforgotten.org or fightfortheforgotten.com. It's all one word. And if people want to sign up for a newsletter, we'll be doing something maybe every quarter or by annually. So we won't spam people. We won't blast them too much. But especially if someone's this is our crowd and this is my tribe, my first tribe before I was adopted in by the Pygmies, was the martial arts tribe. And so if people want to help us make a difference in another tribe, then they can sign up for the newsletter there, and we'll be letting them know what we're going to do a century, because that's just an amazing partnership for us. The reason being is, we were able to drill 77 wells since 2014, and I really went there the first time in 2011 and was working on it that whole time. Even 2013, I was there for 6 months and basically failed. And so 8 times trying to drill my first 8 wells. And so to get 13 up, now 77, I think this year in 2018, we can literally drill 100 wells. We just need the funding for it. And so to have people unite, to crowdfund, to know you're part of something, I'm just inviting people in on the adventure.
Let's do our school. I'll talk to you about this later, but let's start with the pit, man.
That would be awesome. I'm so stoked.
It's not just a fight team. I have a gym with we start at 3 years old. We have orthopedic surgeons, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have cops, we have the biggest kids program in the county. So I think we could work on a lot of stuff, but we can make some happen.
Wow. Well, transforming a community with you would be awesome. I can't tell you the difference it makes. So just on this, just real quick, man, you've been to the big ones. You've been to Chuck Tito, all those different things. You sat ringside for them. For me, I've been to UFC 100. I've been to Manny Pacquiao fights. I've been to the Super Bowl, the World Series, the NBA Finals. I've been to some of the biggest sporting events and arenas in the world. And I've also been to a water well celebration of just 100 people living in a village. And to see them get clean water and to be part of that celebration drowns out the 50, 75,000, 100,000 people stadiums, the depth of gratitude, the excitement. I mean, I've literally danced until the sun came up and had my cheeks just straining and cramping on me because of smiling, and went to bed completely dripping wet in the hot, humid rainforest. And normally I would never be able to sleep that way in my life, just dripping wet, but just passing out of happy exhaustion. Nothing compares to the victory in life that is. They've been standing in this field of giants, of different illnesses, whether it's cholera or typhoid or E. coli or whatever it is, and to have victory over that. Man, it's an exciting thing. So sorry, I could talk about this all day, but to be able to do that with you in the pit, you, Jim, you, John, that would be rad. That would be absolutely good.
We can do the same dancing for people that were bullied and shit. And now we're gonna get them empowered too.
Yeah, and I forgot to say this. I just found out today. You guys are the first people I get to tell this to, but an amazing anonymous donor said that for the next 3 months, they're doing a $50,000 match, meaning that if I can raise $50,000, they're going to match it. So every dollar, if someone donates $1, it's really $2. If someone donates 100, it's really 200. Someone can donate 50 grand, it's really 100 grand. And so for us to just be kind of starting up our foundation on its own, that's a huge kickstart, and so really stoked about it. So whether it's with a pit or whether it's a one-time donation or reoccurring donation, it gets doubled. So I'm pumped about that.
Awesome.
We're in.
Awesome. Hey, the world needs more people like you. This is awesome talking to you. The world, especially in our little world, but in our United States, becomes so divisive and divided, and I can't even turn on the news anymore. To talk to people like you and to see you out there making a difference, it's very inspiring. So thank you for what you're doing. It's awesome.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much. Couldn't do it without great people like you.
See you soon, and we'll hook up after the show. Not like hook up though.
Okay.
I don't know.
See you later. Thanks, bro.
Take it easy, Justin. Nice
Hey,
to meet you.
thank you guys.
Great meeting
Nice
you.
to meet you. Thank you so much.
Take it easy, John.
All right. Thank you, brother. I'll talk to you soon. That was great.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Hey,
We
you
loved
guys
it.
are great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Hey, I
having
can't
you
thank
on.
you.
It
Hey.
was. Well,
All
let's stay in
Thank
touch.
you.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Hey, I'll go ahead and throw my cell number down when I hit hang up. I'll go ahead and type it out so that way you got my number.
All right, I'm coming out that way. I'm coming out that way soon because I'm going to visit Mike.
Okay. Well, let me know, and I'll take you to lunch or something.
All right, bro. Thank